Good morning, everybody. My name is John Mandyke. I'm the CEO of Urban Green Council, and I'm pleased to be your moderator for today's event, Navigating Energy Incentives, a really important topic at a really important time. Before we start, I just wanted to share Urban Green's values with you. Urban Green values excellence, inclusion, collaboration, and engagement. If we can bring that slide up. We invite you to be mindful of our values as we go through today's discussion, and we incorporate these in everything that we do every day. Next, I want to thank our sponsor for today's event, which is Con Edison. We really appreciate their generous support and sponsorship of this important discussion. Now, we're going to share a lot of resources with you at today's event. We've included a QR code for links on the slides, and we'll also put the links in the chat. So you'll be able to find all the resources on our event page and give this QR code a shot to take a look. Next, before we start, I just want to talk to you about an important program. It's a NYSERDA funded training program that will help your facilities team take advantage of customized training at no out-of-pocket cost to your organization. It's called G-Pro at Work. It's an Urban Green program designed to help organizations build upon their employees' technical skills and reduce energy use in your facility. Now, we've got a great case study on this to see how it works with the engineering and maintenance department at Weill Cornell Medical Center. And you can see just exactly how the program helped to improve their energy efficiency. So the case study is at the link on this slide. You'll see other information related to Urban Green's G-Pro at Work offering. Just invite you to take advantage of this really amazing, no out-of-pocket expense consultation and training for your facilities to help reduce energy use. So now let's get on with the program. Today, our speakers are going to address the financial incentives and other resources available for energy upgrades and to answer questions about how to best take advantage of new technologies. So our speakers in order are Peter Rosenthal, he's with Savannah. We have Andrew Kringas with the New York City Accelerator. We have Brian Cabezas with NYSERDA in the multifamily area. We have Robert Paris with Con Ed and Travis Smith from Smith Engineering. I'm going to turn it over to Peter Rosenthal to kick off our discussion. And I just want to say to Peter, congratulations on the great work at One Court Square that you're going to hear about today. I actually toured that building over the summer and the upgrades that's happened there. Really, really impressive work. So Peter, turn the program over to you.
Sure, thank you. Thank you, John, and thank you for letting me be part of this panel today. Really enjoy spreading the news of the things we've done, as I believe that, the reason why we're here is for you to educate, a lot of people, and they should be taking advantage of the same, rebates and services that we took. I am a principal here at Savannah. We are a private equity real estate company. We are fully vertically integrated. We're an operating developer. So we bring project management, construction, leasing, property management all to bear within our properties. And this is a great case study over at One Court Square. We've owned this property for several years. When we were putting together the budget, we knew we were going to have to do some chiller modifications, not necessarily replacements, just some upgrades. We knew we were going to upgrade the cooling tower, some fixing on it. We did not have any plans for any kind of variable frequency drives on the pumps. So we knew we had a budget to do certain things in the building. And then one day I had Peter Baraskay from Cushman & Wakefield, our property manager, come in with Fred Verona, our chief engineer, and said, Peter, we have some issues over here at Court Square. One of the chillers, really crapped out. We really have to do a replacement on it. We spoke to both Carrier and Smith Engineering, Travis Smith and Craig Falaski from Carrier. They ran down for me some of the things that they could do. I said, sure, why don't you bring them in? They came to my office, and it was really a very eye-opening meeting for us. It was enlightening. They came in, they said, okay, Peter, we can replace 2 chillers. We can upgrade all your pumps with variable frequency drives. We can upgrade the plate and frame heat exchanger, completely replace your BMS system. It's going to cost you, in the magnitude of $6 million, and we can get you like $2.5–3 million back between Con Edison and NYSERDA. So I basically had the easy part of this whole process. Just, I had to say yes. So we did a little more research on it. We brought in our in-house engineer, MG Engineering, just to vet it because, kind of seemed too good to be true. And then we went through the process and they under-promised and overperformed. At the end of the day, we spent about, I think it was close to $6 million, and we got about $5.2 million back in rebates, or $5.3 million back in rebates. So, it was just a slam dunk home run. We are saving about $1.2 million a year on energy costs. So $700,000 out of pocket gets paid back in like 7 months. Really absolute no brainer for us. So from an owner's perspective, it checks all the boxes. What does it check? It checks the financial side of it. So, your payback period and the return on capital is fantastic. That's the one thing. You have the environmental, which we're all here talking about today, environmentally more friendly. We're saving energy. And of course, our biggest concerns with the tenants. The tenants, pay less in energy costs, and it's also a greater level of comfort for them. They have better systems, they have better controls, their new BMS system, and a more reliable system. So, from an owner's perspective, we just said yes, and this great team that you're going to hear from today just did all the heavy lifting. I did the easy part. I just said yes, and then paid the bills, obviously. We had such good success there that working with Travis Smith, NYSERDA, Con Edison, we're rolling this out through our entire portfolio. We're in the process of evaluating every one of our assets. We just completed the evaluation on about 5 of them. We kicked off another project right now. We're completely changing a BMS system in another building. We're about to kick off another building. So, this is not like a one and done. And, that's why I'm happy to be here today to speak to everybody, just because, I don't understand why everyone's not doing this. It's great incentives and for an owner in those 3 boxes that I told you about and that we're checking off. So that's high level from the ownership perspective. And let me hand it off now to Andrew Kringus, Service Provider Manager at New York City Accelerator.
Thank you so much. Sorry, give me one sec. We get the slide decks up and running. There we go. Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. Again, my name is Andrew Kringus, the Service Provider Manager on the New York City Accelerator team, here today to discuss the New York City Accelerator and how we can help. So a quick overview. We work with thousands of buildings across New York City to identify and implement energy efficiency measures and plan for long-term deep energy retrofits, aiming to reduce carbon emissions and to meet local law compliance. By doing so, this in turn provides great comfort and quality of life for city residents. So who's eligible for the New York City Accelerator? Well, we work with buildings that are privately owned, over 5,000 square feet, while referring any smaller buildings that we encounter to partner organizations for further assistance. We are also working with firms dealing with new construction and substantial renovation, including energy modeling, to help meet a low carbon future. So how does the accelerator work? The New York City Accelerator reaches out to property owners, property managers, landlords, etc., while simultaneously taking calls and emails from these stakeholders, who are then linked with account managers who work to initiate the process and provide guidance to them. We're here to help initiate the process towards a decarbonized future to accelerate market change within New York City with the help of our account managers and service providers. And finally, the program is free. It is backed by the city, overseen by the Mayor's Office of Climate and Sustainability. There's no catch, there's no cost, and there's no sign-up commitment. We want to help building decision makers navigate local law compliance while also boosting business intake for service providers. So moving forward, a quick overview regarding Local Law 97 and the Climate Mobilization Act. Established in 2019, the Climate Mobilization Act, or the CMA, builds on top of New York City's already impressive and extensive history of reducing energy consumption in buildings while tackling emissions causing climate change. So in addition to the measures and mandates for rooftops, Local Law 92 and 94, energy grade postings, or the energy efficient grade, Local Law 33 and 95, as well as property assessed clean energy or PACE-based funding for financing options, 96, we have the carbon emissions intensity limits, or Local Law 97. The carbon emissions intensity limits follow from earlier laws in which buildings benchmark their energy usage each year and every 10 years to perform energy audits and retro-commissioning under 84 and 87. However, with 97 caps starting in 2024, we'll take a closer look at this as an example before moving on to the next steps with the accelerator. Just load all this up. So when discussing local law 97, there's generally two categories we want to talk about. The first being commercial and industrial, institutional, and multifamily market rate buildings greater than 25,000 square feet, which are required to meet these carbon reduction targets, which get more and more bold every 5 years. The first carbon emission limits apply for 2024 through 2029. Then the second emissions limit applying to 2030 and through 34, with lower limits to follow in 2035 and beyond to achieve the ultimate goal of 80% reduction in emissions by 2050. Now, in terms of square footage, about 75 to 80% of properties will meet these limits come 2024, where about 25 to 35% of properties will meet the law limits starting in 2030. So most buildings will meet it initially, but there's still time to plan for meeting the more aggressive goals that stand ahead. And now, switching gears to the other category, affordable housing buildings, those greater than 25,000 square feet, the requirements vary a bit. The buildings will either meet local law 97 emission limits within a determined time frame, or they can implement prescriptive energy conservation measures or prescriptive path measures, which are a set improvements and basic retrofits to operate their building to a certain standard. Sorry, going. So how can the New York City Accelerator help? On this slide, you'll see a basic flow of operations where the accelerator can jump in and help. First, by talking about the services that the accelerator offers. This is addressed with learning about our program. Whether you're a service provider or a key building decision maker, we encourage everyone to reach out to us so we can help initiate the conversation or process that needs to take place at a certain location. Then we move on to assessing the building's needs and operating status. This includes assessing the age of equipment and what stakeholders are looking to accomplish, alongside potential financing options or incentive-backed programs for their use. And then we look to see how these energy efficiency measures can be implemented to meet carbon emissions compliance. By implementing the measures through service providers enrolled with the program, we're able to stay connected throughout the project timeline, making sure that the stakeholder has their project taken care of, alongside making sure that the service provider has delivered on the task at hand. We want to make sure that the accelerator stays in touch with both stakeholders and service providers, as they're both vital pieces of our success. And now, while we're here, it's important to understand what the accelerator does not do. We do not do design work or architectural work or contractor work. We're not taking away from any work from the existing marketplace either. Rather, the accelerator should be viewed as enablers of starting these retrofit processes in situations where stakeholders don't necessarily know how to start such a process or figure out how to afford paying for these measures. We support any participant within the accelerator accordingly as a free service for all to use. So let's dive into incentive and other available resource programs. The accelerator looks to leverage existing resources, both from contracting and engineering firms, through our process of a retrofit, a request for qualification, alongside taking the opportunity to leverage financial incentives from either utility or state programs. The options shown here on this slide is not a comprehensive list of every single program offered, but rather just a sampling for today's event. So with the first set of options here, through Con Edison, they offer their programs like the multifamily energy efficiency program, their small to medium business program, or their CNI program, commercial and industrial. Again, these aren't a list of all their programs, just a few for today's presentation. Moving on towards National Grid, they offer a few programs as well, like their multifamily and general rebate program. PSEG offers their commercial partners program. City agencies that we've worked with, like Housing Preservation and Development, have a few offerings like their electrification pilot, solar where feasible, and their green housing preservation program. And moving on toward NYSERDA, the New York City Energy Resource Development Authority, offers a bunch of options through the state, including their FlexTech program, their multifamily performance program, their on-site energy manager and real-time management program, and their clean carbon planning and retrofit options. And then, of course, the financing options, including commercial property assessed clean energy or PACE financing, which is administered by NYC for New York City Accelerator on behalf of New York City, which was established through Local Law 96. And with that, I would like to thank Urban Green Council and Con Edison for making this event possible and letting the New York City Accelerator participate. Please feel free to reach out with any further questions or comments with the information provided here. And I'll pass this onward to the next speaker, Brian Cabezas from NYSERDA. Thank you very much.
Hi, Andrew. Thanks so much. Sorry, it took me a moment to get going here. My name is Brian Cabezas. I'm a senior project manager on the multifamily residential team. I tried to start my video, but it says I'm unable to start it due to the host. But I'll just get going here. So thanks so much, Urban Green Council, for allowing me to present today. Today, I wanted to walk you through what our sorry about that. I think I advanced too far. What our programs are that are available for the attendees today. Essentially, our programs are designed to meet a building owner where they are in terms of the project funding lifecycle. On the planning side, there's FlexTech, Onsite Energy Manager, R10, Real-Time Energy Management, and Strategic Energy Management. And then for those in the audience that also, apologies for that, those in the audience that also do oversee the multifamily sector, there's the MPP program and low carbon capital planning support program. On the implementation side, we have New York Sun and Solar, which is for solar PV installations. And then we also have low carbon pathways and MPP. And then on operations and maintenance and measurement and verification, there's On-Site Energy Manager, R10, Strategic Energy Management, and Multifamilies MPP program as well. So just advancing. In terms of eligibility requirements, the commercial programs are available to existing buildings. They must pay into the Electric System Benefits Charge or the Clean Energy Fund. And then for multifamily buildings, they also have to meet those requirements. In addition to that, the buildings must have 5 or more dwelling units, and at least 50% of the gross heated square footage is residential space for any mixed-use buildings. Now, to dive into the programs a bit more, we have our FlexTech program. This is really our cost share technical assistance program that's available for commercial multifamily and industrial sectors. The cost can be combined, the incentives can be combined with any of the implementation services available through utilities or NYSERDA. The FlexTech program is available to all projects on a first come, first served basis through 2025. And in order to participate, you must use a FlexTech consultant or independent service provider. We do have a suite of different offerings for these services. We predominantly see energy audits conducted under this program, energy audits of ASHRAE level 2 or 3. There's even a level 1+ that we offer. However, one note that I'll make here is that we're always open to new pilot projects. So if there's an energy-related study you would like to pursue that doesn't quite fit into one of these categories, feel free to reach out and we can discuss that opportunity. And so to get more information about FlexTech, visit our FlexTech site and you can engage with an expert or email the FlexTech team at flextech@NYSERDA. Moving on, On-Site Energy Manager program provides a 75% cost share for having an on-site energy manager at your building or portfolio. The energy manager is required to work at least 20 hours per week for 1 year, for a minimum of 1 year. They could go beyond that. The energy manager will develop a living energy management plan for the building or buildings and provide quarterly reports on energy saving initiatives. Funding is capped at $100,000 or $200,000 for the initial 12 months, and that depends on the energy spend, whether it's below or above $1 million for the building or portfolio. And then there are also opportunities for bonuses if the energy manager stays on beyond the 1 year time frame. And you can get more information on the Onsite Energy Manager website. And to keep things moving, the Real-Time Energy Manager program, which Andrew mentioned before, this program has a suite of offerings, including a multifamily opportunity. These new programs follow the same program structure and payment structure as previous iterations of R10. We're still installing real-time energy management system and creating a comprehensive cloud-based operating system. The new program offerings come from the recognition that there is really a disconnect between office occupancy and energy use. For instance, though office occupancy dropped to around 2% in March or April of 2021, total building energy consumption only dropped by 20%. And many tenants did not decrease consumption. We also recognize that there is limited visibility into real-time energy use in tenant spaces. We are unable to holistically account for total building footprint and end uses. So with that recognition, and we recognize that tenant loads are a critical problem to solve for buildings in order to comply with the local laws that Andrew mentioned. So with that recognition, the R10 program is really accelerating the adoption of energy management technology in leased tenant spaces. Our first suite of offerings that I'll discuss is R10 plus tenants. So this is a relatively new offering with a total funding of $25 million. It's available to commercial buildings with at least 2 tenants. In order to participate, the building owner must work with a qualified R10 vendor. And the system that's installed will monitor at least 75% of the leased tenant spaces and at least 75% of the building's total energy consumption. We offer 33% cost share for the project costs, capped at $400,000 per building, with a portfolio cap of $2.5 million. The project costs include installation, commissioning, and 1 to 3 years of service. In addition to that, we also offer a separate program for small businesses. These are for commercial sites with less than 50,000 square feet and less than 300 kilowatts of annual peak demand. In this program, NYSERDA will offer 30% cost share for the system installation and 30% cost share for 3 years of service, which is required. You do have to have those 3 years. Here, there's a cap of $85,000 per building, but there is no portfolio cap. There is a separate program for multifamily. I've included that in the appendix, but I won't cover that today. So for more information about R10, feel free to visit the R10 site, either finding a vendor or you can connect with the R10 team. Next, I'll cover our strategic energy management program. This program offers a 100% cost share for either 2 potential program pathways. We have the Strategic Energy Manager On Demand program and the Virtual Treasure Hunts. SEM On Demand offers customized energy management tracking tools. We also offer rolling workshop schedules and customized check-ins with an energy coach team. For Virtual Treasure Hunts, which is a separate pathway, we offer the opportunity to identify energy opportunities. Participants will also receive coaching from an experienced team, and participants will receive a treasure hunt report that identify energy savings and other key opportunities. These programs are developed to be flexible, to engage with employees and train your workforce. The programs are open, both these pathways, and the overall program is open through 2025. Just to help sort of orient you to how this program works, we created this schematic. It really does show the step-by-step process for either pathway. Essentially, they are starting with an application, and then they'll go through SEM On Demand, which is the one on top, and the Treasure Hunts is the one on the bottom. One thing I wanted to note here is that SEM on demand does include the virtual treasure hunt. So if you wanted to pursue both the SEM on demand options and the treasure hunt, you can just do that all through SEM on demand. The virtual treasure hunt is offered as an isolated component of the overall strategic energy management program. More information about strategic energy management can be found on this website, nycerta.ny.gov/SEM. And then just for additional support, if you do need a contractor, you can go to the NYCERTA website for Find a Contractor page to find a list of all of our NYCERTA vetted contractors. In addition to that, we have all of these various contractors, many of which I noted already, the FlexTech consultants, real-time energy management qualified vendors. We also have heat pump installers and multifamily building solutions network providers. So feel free to visit these links for more information. For information about the programs that I presented today, you can go to Put Energy to Work, where we have consolidated all of our commercial programs. And then for all of the multifamily programs, you can visit the multifamily building programs that is provided in that second link. And my contact information is provided here as well. So thank you so much for allowing me to share these opportunities. If you do want additional information about our multifamily programs or any of the commercial programs, feel free to reach out to me. And now I will, thanks, yes, the appendix is where I have all the multifamily programs listed. And with that, I'll pass it on to, I'll just quickly say that they are all listed here for review later. We have a multifamily low carbon retrofit program, as I mentioned. This has resources for Carbon Playbook. There's the low carbon planning support, which is a FlexTech extension, and then a implementation pathway program. So I'll just breeze through these options. No need to go through them now. The multifamily performance program is available for comprehensive energy efficiency upgrades. This is being transferred over to the utility program, which is the Affordable Multifamily Energy Efficiency Program. That program is now open. So if you do have any LMI multifamily buildings, that is available. They are eligible to participate in MPP, and they're also now available to participate in the new AMEP, which is the utility program. And then the solar program, which is also available for those that are interested in participating. So all these details are provided here for your benefit, and I'll now pass it on to Robert Paris from Con Ed. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Starting. Okay, hopefully you could see me now. Good morning, everyone. My name is Robert Paris. I'm the Trade Alley Manager with the Commercial Industrial Program. Today, I'm going to primarily just focus on the Commercial Industrial Program. We have a host of different programs throughout our organization. If you need information on those, I can make those available to you. So the agenda today is to go over the program, some different ways you could save, and then how to get started. Okay, just to let you know, Commercial Industrial Energy Efficiency Program, just to give you an idea, this is an overview. You can receive cash incentives for equipment upgrades, renovation projects, gut renovations. We have dedicated support for this program. This is all managed in-house. So we have a host of business development managers who could be assigned to either you as a customer, or if you're a contractor, can support you in those endeavors as well. And you'll work hand in hand with us to submit projects. Just to give you an idea, we have our Trade Alley management team, which is what I oversee. We have engineers, inspectors, energy specialists, and again, business development managers. So you need help, reach out to us, and we'll do what we can to move you along the way. In the past 3 years, Con Edison's been we've had a ton of efficiency projects, thanks to customers and contractors who keep bringing them in. We gotta thank you for that. We've paid $83 million in incentives to commercial industrial customers. This is just for commercial industrial customers. Our actually incentive numbers are even bigger across the board, which has actually led to 250 million kilowatt hours and 5 million therms annually, which is which leads to about 200,000 metric tons of reducing the carbon footprint. So thank you to all you who have been participating in the program. You've made a really big impact, and we hope to continue this effort. Just to give you an idea of the overview of the program, we incentivize up to 70% of project incentive costs. So if a project is $1 million, incentive comes out to be $700,000 of that. With a cost cap for electric projects. Sorry for there's a little mistake on this slide. It should say electric project cost cap for 1 million and gas project cost cap for 750,000. If you want more details about that, reach out to us. We'll give you the nitty gritty about it. But we do select in certain instances where projects are above that cost cap. We can make some accommodations for larger projects that make a big impact, like what we're going to talk about a little bit later today. I'm going to go over some of the eligible measures, some listed down here. No need to mention them now because for future slides we'll actually go over them as well. If you want to look at all of our measures and understand the program, please refer to our program manual. We just launched our 2022 program manual in early November, so everything's updated. Take a look there; it's on the website. There's a link here in the presentation that you can go straight to it. But if you have questions, we can answer those as well. Eligibility, this is something that always kind of hits us in the side of the head. This is for, the C&I program is for commercial industrial customers with over 100 kilowatt average peak demand on a 12-month rolling basis. This, for natural gas, it's basically for everyone. In the history of our program, we were not providing incentives to temperature controlled or interruptible natural gas accounts. Now we actually do, which is great. The only account that we don't is this SC-14 service class. Don't ask me what that is. That's just one of the ones that don't get it. On the other hand, we no longer are looking for system benefits charges. I know that was a big question we had a million times in the past. There's not a requirement to participate in our program anymore, but for those of you who deal with the New York Power Authority, those accounts are still not eligible under the electric side. If you deal with a city building or whatnot that has a NYPA electric account, you could still apply to their natural gas incentive. And then, we don't allow double dipping, so you must not have applied for another utility company or NYSERDA for the same project. Now, you could do a NYSERDA study and then do a Con Edison actual project. That's perfectly fine. And customers must be directly metered. Just a couple other things, the projects must be under an existing Con Edison account. If you're going to do a project, well, obviously you don't have a 12-month rolling basis, and we can't, your project will not qualify. And then, once you start a project, you make sure you don't do anything until we come out and take a look at it. We send out a notice to proceed, and we can cover that with you if you don't understand the process further down. And then our program year usually goes from November to November. So our 2022 program year just started, and then it will expire in mid-November of 2022. Just to go over some measures, I don't need to read through all these. I think they're pretty straightforward. We basically have prescriptive measures for everything you can think of in the lighting industry. So if you're replacing fixtures, if you're installing controls, this could be anything from a typical occupancy sensor to an actual control system. We also do for gut renovations. So if you're renovating office spaces and things of that nature, you could just do the lighting power density method, and we'll give incentives for that. Just to give you an example, this is a pretty straightforward one. If you had a project that had 900 light fixtures, we're giving $50 a fixture. Well, there you go. You get $45,000. This is pretty typical. We do see incentives for lighting to go within between the 30 to 45 to 50% range in covering the project, which is why we'd like to show this here. Just a real quick example. Don't need to go into the nitty-gritty of this. Also, we do for HVAC measures. We have a large offering for prescriptive measures there as well. This goes anything from packaged thermal ACs to air source heat pumps. We also do for gas seasonal heating systems, replacing boilers, tune-ups, domestic hot water heaters. We get a lot of products for pipe insulation and steam traps. Just keep in mind, if you do steam trap projects, just be careful about if you're going to do one. I would say do a large project, because if you do one this year and you submit another one next year, we may question it and say, well, are you submitting the same thing? Because steam traps do tend to fail, and the best way to really address them is to address them all at once. You can always ask us questions if you do. There's some more items here. VFDs, we always hear about it. We have outside air resets controls, demand control ventilation, yada, yada, yada. The list goes on. Just wanted to put these in front of you just to show you a lot of like the common projects that we accept into our system. If you have a technology or something that you don't see it here and you're not too sure if it doesn't fit, reach out to us and we'll let you know. We're also willing to kick the tires on new technologies and things of that nature. So we're really looking for anything that saves energy. Another, just a quick example, if you were to replace an air compressor, our incentive is $300 a horsepower. If it's a 40 horsepower motor, you would get $1,200. So $12,000, excuse me. So again, here a nice chunk of the project. If a 40 horsepower air compressor costs about 35 grand, you get about 34% of that, covered. Steam trap example, another nice one. We give $600 a trap, which is pretty high. We also do provide $5,000, up to $5,000, or 50% of a steam trap audit, which is actually required for a steam trap project. So again, here, most of our steam, and I would say not most, but the majority of our steam trap projects actually do fall within that project cap that we actually hit, that 70%. So in this case, you had a $75,000 project, 120 traps, you saved over $50,000. And the coverage, the total cost of the project is 70% that was covered by us. Refrigeration measures, here's another, a bunch of more stuff that we offer, controls for anti-sweat heaters, there's ECM motors for walk-in coolers and freezers, and all sorts of stuff. Again, if you have a refrigeration measure, reach out to us, ask us what it's all about, and we'll try to direct you in the right way, whether it's prescriptive or custom or things of that nature. We see some data center optimization measures. This is probably going to get bigger as the future, progresses. Crack units, UPSs, cold aisle containment, whatever the case may be. There's new tech, especially with data centers. There's a lot of technology that's coming into play. So if you have something you're working on that's going to save a considerable amount of energy, reach out to us and we'll see what we can do to provide an incentive for it. And in other measures, I mentioned some of the other ones. A lot of projects do fall within custom projects. We get a lot of custom projects because some things just don't quite fit. Elevator modernization is pretty big. A lot of office buildings are rehashing their elevators, and part of that they're putting controls, they're putting VFDs on them, and so on and so forth. We're still kicking the tire on EC motors that are not for refrigeration. So if you put on fan coil units and things like that, we do give some custom measures for that. And our big thing this year is we're really pushing window improvements, roof improvements, and anything else building envelope related. We've raised our incentives for those. I can give you more information about it if you're interested. But those are the things we're really looking for. We're looking for items that have that save energy for a long duration, as opposed to lighting, which maybe we save it for a few years. You replace a roof, and that roof's probably going to be there for about 20 years or so. And that's what we're trying to concentrate on going forward. To give you an idea of our custom incentives, we provide 45 cents per kilowatt hour for custom electric measures. There's a bunch of different values for natural gas measures. On a regular natural gas project, it's $7 per therm, whereas for custom installation is $4, and then for TRM measures not listed in the program manual and outside air reset controls, we'd give $2 a therm. We also have, there's also early replacement and extended life measures on chillers and boilers and things of that nature that we could explain where you can actually get more money than the prescriptive rate. So I wanted to talk really quickly about our NonWire Solution program. This is a program where we actually provide additional incentives on top of what I just presented, on top of prescriptive, on top of custom, whatever the case may be, if it falls within this map. Now, a lot of folks ask us, do you have an existing detailed street view of this map? The answer is no. We just, if you're in one of these neighborhoods, reach out to, you can email dsm@coned.com and just say, hey, here's my account number. Does this qualify? And I'll let you know if it does qualify for NonWire Solution, or we call it NWS. We call an adder program for its additional incentives. And this is basically $2,000 per kilowatt. Now, when you look at the project capping, that has nothing to do with it. So if you get 70% of your project capped with just a regular kilowatt hour savings, and you'll get an additional $2,000 per kilowatt. So we're looking for projects that reduce load permanently. This is not for, I'm doing a project that reduces load, 3 hours a day or 4 hours a day. It's really something that, it was, 10,000 kilowatts before, now it's 5,000 kilowatts. Well, for that 5 kilowatt difference, we'll give you $2,000 a kilowatt. And of course, it would make perfect sense since this whole presentation is all about 1 quart square, it was, originally we were supposed to be there, to use 1 quart square as an example, where in this particular project, they got an additional $1.5 million, a little bit over $1.5 million for the adder incentive. They reduced their the kilowatts greatly. The project was almost $6 million. We provided almost 3.2 million adder. Just a third. So definitely a big project here. Just to give you an idea, this is other projects like this. We have other case studies on there. So for applying for incentives, you could always send it out to commercial@coned.com. If you want to become a C&I participating contractor, reach out to me, of course. And then, of course, if you're going to submit a project, you want to, make sure you have the application, the tools, the energy analysis, W9, cut sheets, and DLC screenshots if it's a lighting project. I wanted to give you real quick an overview of what our program looks like when you do submit a project. We did a lot of stages here, right? So, just keep in mind, before you start any work, we have to check your project for eligibility. You're going to check your project for eligibility and submit an application project. Then we're going to review it and then pre-inspect it. Once the pre-inspection is done and we say everything's good to go, we send you out a preliminary incentive offer letter, and then you sign that and you get a notice to proceed, meaning you start the work. When you're done with the work, you send us back something called a completion certificate, and then we do a post-inspection and a final engineering review, and then tell you what your incentive actually is. So just know that there's a process. Please don't start a project and then submit an application. We do not accept those. But we will work with you in whatever way we can to make sure that you get as many projects you can into our system. Just reach out. There's tons of us in this that work in this program, and we can help you with whatever you need. Just to give you some resources, if you want to reach out, again, there's at commercial@coned.com, which I believe has also been put in the chat. There's our C&I Energy Efficiency Program website. And then we also have our Clean Heat program, which I'm not covering in this presentation because I don't have enough time. But that's a big one too. We've increased the incentives for that program, and we're really excited about it and hope that there's more increase about it, and so on and so forth. And that's all I have. Thank you very much. There's my email. If you ever want, you could reach out to me, and we'll go from there. Have a nice day. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Following some great presentations. My name is Travis Smith. We were the consulting engineer and the controls vendor on this project at One Court Square, so we want to share some of our experiences on this project. A little bit about One Court Square. It's a 1.5 million square foot building in Long Island City. So City vacated this building 5/11. City was the owner occupant of this building, and Savannah took it over. Cushman Wakefield took over operations, and we're going to talk about the project that commenced that Peter talked a little more about at the beginning. So some project details. We replaced 2 of the existing 950-ton chillers with 2 new Carrier 19 XRVs. Those are 1,100-ton VFD machines. We refurbished all 5 cooling tower cells, installed VFDs on condenser water pumps, chilled water pumps, and the outside air fan motors. Since this is rebate focused, the VFDs on the dedicated OA fans came later in the project, so that came as a change order to the application, and that's a pretty smooth process to submit that through Con Ed if you already have an approved application. It was just more scope we kind of decided to do during the project. We refurbished the plate and frame heat exchangers to improve free cooling. Replaced existing BMS with iView. Basically, it's an ALC system. iView is the Carrier branded version of that, so an entire new BMS upgrade. There was a real-time energy management system installed by Cortex, and just optimization of the system. I have a little bit of a typo here. Roughly 90% rebates. I think it's closer to 80%. So the reason we were able to go above 70, as just mentioned, is the NonWire solution. I want to take this opportunity to kind of talk about rebate caps and kind of our opinion on rebate caps, because this project does have a very high percentage cost share of rebates, and kind of the old adage was, oh, we want these projects to stand on their own without rebates, and I don't, our opinion is that doesn't really make sense. The rebate is the service benefit charge, which is the revenue source for the Con Ed programs and the NYSERDA programs, is an extremely efficient way to accomplish these projects. I have over here on the left, I have an example of where you have no rebate or a low percentage of cost share. The owner loses in this situation because most of the savings that would be achieved through these projects, the tenant would receive those savings. I know Local Law 97 kind of changes this a little bit, but it doesn't really make a lot of sense to invest when the tenants receive the savings. The tenant loses because they have higher energy costs. The utility loses in New York City because the grid is constrained. It's much more cost effective to reduce this energy in the peak KW, especially in this Long Island City location where the grid is constrained and there's a non-wire solution opportunity. So the utility loses a little bit. The local community loses less local jobs, and the large power generating equipment is not produced in New York City. Obviously, the natural gas is not produced in New York City. So a lot of the money leaves the city. The national community, less energy independence, global community, more greenhouse gas. So on the hot, we personally don't believe there should, the higher the cap, really the better for New York City and all the constituents. So the owner wins. The owner gets to upgrade equipment and increase the value of the asset at a reduced cost. The tenant wins with better controls and lower energy costs. The utility wins, reduced cost of generation and transmission. The local community wins, more local jobs. This project started staring us, February, March 2020. So this is right when COVID was starting. And we asked this developer to spend $6 million, or this owner to spend $6 million. I'm pretty confident without the rebates, this project would have been canceled. And this was an important project for us during COVID. This was an important project for Carrier and all of the people involved. This was an important project. I'm very confident that there would have been additional layoffs if it hadn't been for these rebates. So there's a local community win right there. Local New Yorkers having jobs. So the national community wins, more energy independence, and the global community wins, which is less greenhouse gas. So as long as these projects are heavily scrutinized, which they are by Con Ed's third party, we believe that a high cost cap is actually a very good thing for New York City, cost share cap. So some of the strategies that you can see this photo on the right here. This is a chiller going into one of the windows because the mechanical room's on the 9th floor. So we had to rig the chillers in, break them down into their components and rig these chillers in. And this is all during COVID. The strategies that we utilized here as far as the optimization side, optimal chiller staging, optimal pump staging, chilled water pump speed control with DP reset, predictive dispatch of cooling, free cooling. Some of the other, there's virtual airside economizer, which I'll talk about here in a second. I'll focus on the chiller plant. We do a lot of pharmaceutical work, so we bring that pharmaceutical knowledge to the commercial building industry. You can see this is a P&ID, process and instrumentation drawing. This is a critical drawing for us to achieve success, to know exactly where all the instrumentation is located within the plant. And this is produced as part of the project. You can see the 2 new chillers there. The bold is new VFDs, a lot of new instrumentation, BTU meters, temperature sensors on the chiller plant. Here's the new graphic this is the new BMS graphic for the chiller plant. You can see the 5 chillers there in the center. The 2 new chillers are chillers 2 and 3, free cooling heat exchangers, chill water pumps on the left, condenser water pumps on the right. Here's a comparison to the old graphics. You can see a pretty substantial upgrade, but what you maybe can't see as much here is just a lot more information, a lot more instrumentation. Here's an image on the left. You see the old chillers. The image in the middle shows the 2 new chillers. You can see the new VFDs for the pumps. This was a design build effort with Carrier, and it's important to note that there's no way we could have finished this in the 6-month time period during COVID if this wasn't design build. It makes the project process a lot smoother. An important point to note here is the customer got a lot of upgrades. You can see on the left, no marine water boxes on the chillers. You have to remove the Victaulic flanges to clean the chillers. On the right, we have marine water boxes with hinges. So improved maintenance on the equipment that we maybe don't talk about too much. The old adage, you can't manage what you don't measure. I think we've all preached it for a long time, and a lot of buildings it hasn't come to fruition. You can see here we have total plant tonnage. This is a plant KPI screen, key performance indicator screen. You have total plant KW per ton, chiller KW per ton. and chilled water pump, condenser water pump towers. This is important for the 94 operators to be able to see how each individual component is performing. The dial turns yellow or red, and then it's time to investigate, hey, what's going on with my chilled water pumps? Maybe a strainer's clogged or something, but that dynamic feedback is critical for operations to maintain high efficiencies into perpetuity. Just an example of an air handling unit screen comparison, pre and post. This building is of the style dedicated compartment unit on a floor by floor. That mechanical room is the return plenum and direct injected OA into that mechanical room. So this is a hard project to do an upgrade in a short amount of time because you have a control panel on every single floor, whereas centralized air handling units, there's big control panels and a couple mechanical rooms. So very challenging project to meet the deadline of 6 months for install during COVID. This is one of the strategies right here. Here's a ASHRAE 36 static and SAT reset. You can see the damper, the little circles there are the VAV box damper positions out on the floor. So this does a trim and respond based on damper position to reduce the constantly reduce static pressure set point. I think ASHRAE 36 does a good job of laying out the guideline, implementing it in a practical way that is not overridden by the operator really takes a lot of experience. And the team here had a lot of experience doing that. And this is a screenshot taken not too long ago, a year after project. And that's really how I view success, is that it's still being run in auto. That's really a successful energy project. A year later, the staff's still running things in auto. Here's just a little quirky. We did a lot of measures, but this is a quick one that I can do in this presentation. This is morning cool down. You can see the traditional optimal start of an air handling unit is really kind of legacy logic left over from when motors were constant speed. So you'd want to delay, the optimal start would delay the start as late as possible to reduce the number of hours of a full speed fan running a full speed air handling unit fan. Now that we have VFDs on air handling units, you can see it actually makes a lot more sense for the optimal start to start a little bit earlier so that the VFD actually runs at a reduced speed to bring it up to the cool down set point. So we use the traditional optimal start logic, kind of trick it a little bit by maxing out the fan speed or limiting the fan speed to startup, and that gives us lower kW and lower kWh consumption. Virtual airside economizer. So what we did here is you can't do airside economizer because you can't get 100% outside air to each of the air handling units. So we drive the temperature sometimes lower than design temperature from these DOAS units to kind of function as a virtual airside economizer. We put VFDs on all 4 of these DOAS fans, and they do a static reset based off damper position to each floor. We have a future project that we're working on right now to kind of show you guys what it looks like from the initial stages. We actually haven't even fully presented this to Savannah yet, so I might get in trouble for showing this. But basically, there's a chiller 5, which is a small chiller that did not get replaced as part of this project. And what we're looking at doing is putting in a Carrier 19 DV, which is capable of making 120 degrees Fahrenheit. So we have a lot of experience with heat pump chillers, involved in Stanford's project, and we're involved in the Princeton Tiger project, which is electrification of Princeton University. So we have a lot of experience with this industrial level heat pump. So what we would do is we would take stop utilizing free cooling, run this heat pump chiller, heat recovery chiller technically in this situation, and take the heat off of that 120 degrees and put it into the existing energy recovery coil on the DOAS air handling units. So this building's all electric heat, so we'll be able to turn the electric heat off in this DOAS unit, turn off a lot of the electric reheats on the spaces, and provide heat from the building. So the cooling energy is transferred to the heat recovery coil on the unit, and we can make heat up the outside air to heat the building instead of using electric heat. And so there's substantial energy reduction here, substantial carbon reduction. And this is what the project economics would look like presented to Peter Rosenthal to say, hey, yay or nay on this project. So we have the first cost, the potential rebate, the net capex after rebate, and the simple payback, and that helps them make a decision. And this is very preliminary, so let's not get too caught up in the numbers there. So this is kind of my final slide here. The keys to success for this project, and we, doing a lot of these projects across the country, you really can't be successful without these three things working in conjunction. So strong leadership team. Peter Rosenthal, he said, all I did is say yes. That's a really critical piece of the project. If you can't get an owner that doesn't say yes, you have no project. So, they're saying, yes, I'm going to spend $6 million. That's a very important role. And hey, we have this change order. We want to put VFDs on the OA units. He said, yes, very critical piece of the project. And Peter Beresky, property manager, local to the site, really drove the project forward. He managed the weekly meetings, a very strong leader on the site side. If you don't have a strong owner representative on a weekly basis, the projects there's no way we would have finished this project in 6 months. Operator engagement, Fred Verone and his team, we did weekly training calls with Fred, working through all the bugs on the BMS. We do pre-training where we talk through the fundamentals for the 94 operators so that they understand, hey, wait, we're staging pumps differently than we did before. It's a little counterintuitive, but if we're going to walk through those fundamentals, that team they feel more bought in, and they are going to accept. And then they give us feedback on how to make the graphics more intuitive so that it can stay operational in the future. So Fred's team was critical. And then a strong project delivery team. We strongly believe in design build, Carrier, ourselves, BP Analytics, our controls company, Cortex, MGE, the commissioning agent and owner's engineer, Cushman, Wakefield, and Savannah, all part of this team to make this happen. This is a quote that Peter Beresky received from Peter Rosenthal. This has been one of our most complicated projects, but it's gone so smoothly, it is completely under the radar. We note that as a big compliment on the project. And the project had a bunch of challenges, the pandemic being a big one. This was a really, really, really challenging project to accomplish in the timeline with the pandemic going on. And we're basically gutting the MEP infrastructure on a 1.5 million, the complete BMS upgrade. So we really thank Con Ed. We were Regina. I got to thank Regina. We were probably Peter Beresky, myself, and Regina were probably talking daily for months during this project. A lot of things moving and changing, and Con Ed was really, really helpful in helping us be successful. And that's all I've got.
Okay. Thank you, Travis. Maybe we can get everybody's camera started back again. Great. What a great program. I have several questions that have been prompted, and there's some coming into the Q&A box here that we'll get to in a second. So I invite the audience to submit your questions in the Q&A box there, and we'll get to those soon. But my first question, actually to all of you, or to whoever wants to take it, maybe several of you, is it occurred to me in the course of the program today that each of you sit in a very unique place as an early barometer of the market. And so I'm wondering if you can share with us where you see the retrofit market right now based on the activities with your programs. And whoever wants to start first, jump in.
I can jump in real quick. Sorry, Brian. I think I beat you to it. No, just real quick. Like I mentioned in my presentation, what we're hoping for and what we think is going to happen because of Local Law 97. I think the retrofit market may change a little bit to which has been predominantly your low-hanging fruit, lighting, VFDs, things like that, to move over to larger items like the project that Travis Smith team did, a large chiller plant, this and that, or for items that really do last a long time, like build and envelope, windows, roofing, things of that nature. Those really do make a big impact in each and every building in the city.
Great, thanks. Brian, did you have something?
Yeah, I was just going to concur with that, actually. I think the retrofit market has been pretty active lately, and I see that trend that Robert is mentioning, where we are transitioning more from low-hanging fruit to deeper retrofits that have deeper energy savings. I think that is being driven by the local law 97 compliance, at least in New York City. But we're also creating some policy drivers. I think there's going to be more incentives put towards heat pumps that will potentially see more of those types of retrofits get installed. What I didn't mention today was that statewide we have really big climate goals in terms of down the road. The Climate Act that was passed a couple of years back, they're looking at an 85% greenhouse gas emissions reduction by 2050. So that is a pretty big driver that we have to meet, and there are interim steps along the way. So we are trying to put more funding towards the building envelope upgrades and the electrification projects that will yield those types of significant energy savings.
Great, thanks. Andrew, Travis, any comments you want to make on kind of where you see the retrofit market right now?
Well, I would definitely say in the United States, the retrofit market is the largest market, right? So if you look at the equipment vendors, 9 out of 10 pumps sold in the United States go into a retrofit application where one goes into a new build. We're not an emerging market like China where it's a lot of new build. This country, it's really about retrofitting existing assets currently. So I would say the retrofit market is the most critical piece of the energy future of the country.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I was going to just echo what everyone else has been saying. So I'm coming off at least 7 years of work with the SMB program at Con Edison, where I previously worked. And as I saw the transition there, the industry is just looking for deeper retrofits, right? The low-hanging fruit, the lighting and simple retrofits have been done, or it's just getting cheaper by the day. So I think, these incentives are being targeted towards the more expensive retrofits that, we can make affordable to everyone in the city.
Thank you. And so, give us a sense, are these incentives undersubscribed? Are they oversubscribed? Where would you place them on kind of the scale of need in the marketplace? Do more people need to know about it, like programs like this, or how would you assess that?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'll jump into that one first as well. Or you want to go first this time, Brian? How about you go first this time, Brian? Sorry.
I'll take this one then. So I think in terms of the energy audits that we have available, those have actually been subscribed pretty adequately. I mean, I think people do want to get an assessment of how their building is performing. So we do see a pretty decent intake for that project, and that's we're looking at FlexTech projects for those, the flexible technical assistance program. So there does seem to be a pretty decent reception in the market to those projects. What I don't see being subscribed quite as much as we'd like are the incentive programs. So we do have on the multifamily side, we have various multifamily programs, and those have not been subscribed, I think, as much as we'd like. And I think that's partially because the requirements to participate are driving to greater energy savings. We are providing more minimum measurement performance requirements. So projects that participate do have to meet those minimum requirements. I think the utilities, they offer prescriptive measures in some cases, where many of our programs do still offer incentives for comprehensive upgrades. So that does require more of those overall deep energy saving measures to be implemented, as opposed to sort of the one-off options. And I think it's probably easier for a building owner to take on one item at a time, especially as the needs require, versus taking on a really big upgrade. So yeah, we would like to see more subscription into those implementation incentives, but at least the energy audit components, they're being subscribed pretty well. And then actually even on operations and maintenance, I think once more awareness comes about, I think we'll see those programs also get a pretty good subscription. There's been good reception in the market and a lot of inquiries into those programs like real-time energy management and the strategic energy management. I can't speak so much for that, but there does seem to be quite a decent amount of inquiries into the program. Less subscriptions, less people jumping in quite yet, but it's still relatively new within a past year or so. So we hope that will take off a little bit more in the future.
Robert, did you have a word on that?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So yeah, if you look at the grand scheme of things, and I'm speaking primarily from the commercial industrial sector, this past year, I think we've had something about 800 to 900 projects in the queue, and a lot of them are those small, easy, low-hanging, fruit projects. I'd probably say about 3/4 of them. And when you look at what we're really trying to concentrate on, such as like the large projects that have chiller plants and controls and things like that, those are good. We don't have a ton of them because they're also expensive and they take a little longer time to happen. But then if you look on the building envelope side, which is something that we're really focusing on, and we're hoping for more, we're lucky if we get, half a dozen of those a year. And I think it's primarily because, let's face it, if you install a roof or, replace a roof or install new windows in a commercial office building, you're in the, could be in the millions of dollars, and maybe we're only given an incentive of, $50,000 or $100,000. So it's only a small piece of the pie to actually give out. We're trying to find ways to increase those incentives, and we have. But we're still, we're hoping with the way that we've actually increased those incentives this past year that will attract a few more projects. But it's it's only time will tell.
Great. And I wanted to pick up, Brian, on the issue of heat pumps that you brought up. So yesterday, actually, as a matter of fact, Urban Green released our major research report of the year called Grid Ready with the collaboration of Con Ed that looks at the grid readiness for electrification. And cut to the chase is we've got plenty of room to electrify. But the number one question I'm getting from media interviews on that report, or just from the general public as they look at it, is electrification is expensive. And so where do you see incentives going aligned with electrification? And maybe Brian, I'll start with you, but I'll open it up to the whole team.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So what I can say is that we have not seen a lot of heat pump installations as part of retrofit projects. And we recognize that as a shortcoming, that we do need to do more to drive those installations. So we are working on various pilots right now across NYSERDA to address that issue. Part of the concern that I think we have is that some of these buildings could require electric service upgrades. And previously, our program structures were not set up to provide additional incentives for electric service upgrades. So one of the studies is looking at what is the need for electric service upgrades. Either apartment panels need to be upgraded, or potentially the overall building system needs to be upgraded, and providing some incentives for that. And I think what we're also seeing is just that we don't have a great sense of what that cost is. So we're using these pilots to get a better sense of what those costs are, and what the need is for those electric service upgrades. In addition to that, there was concern about, if we're looking at affordable housing, are the burden of electric costs now being transitioned to the tenants, to these LMI tenants, low moderate income tenants versus being borne just by the building owners. So that's something else we're looking into. But we sort of recognize that there could be these various barriers to the electrification of these buildings. And so, these studies are designed to get us that information. Also, get a better sense of what the costs are for heat pump systems, either downstate or upstate, because we primarily deal with New York, and we do have a few different climate zones. And then just have a better sense of what the technology is. Even, package terminal heat pumps, they could be really great, but they don't necessarily have the same efficiency perhaps as like a mini split system. And there are some challenges putting mini splits into high-rise buildings. So the studies are really designed to try to address those concerns as much as we can, working with providers and working with building owners in sort of that evaluation. And then the incentives that we're structuring are set up to one, be provided for the installation, and two, at least at the moment, provided for the electric service upgrades. And I think once we have, once we get some projects under our belt, or at least, so the preliminary costs, we can better size those incentives for the marketplace.
Great, thanks, Brian. Andrew, how's the accelerator thinking about heat pumps and electrification overall?
Hey, so yeah, with the accelerator, we are focusing a lot of effort into the electrification of heat. We have a lot of staff, and engineers on staff that can help push awareness of this out to the city and to the general public. We have a big marketing push through multiple social media platforms, and just trying to raise the general awareness of the local law compliance and these caps that are coming down the line for building owners. We see it as a big issue, and something that we want to take on with the team at Accelerator and engage in conversation with these key decision building owners. Right.
Great. Thank you. I'm going to jump to audience questions in just a second, but I have one final one here. That's for Travis and Peter. You just went through an amazing project. Congratulations. Thanks for sharing it with us. Based on everything you've done and learned, what advice do you have for other people in your shoes, thinking about similar projects?
I could start. So, just do what we did. Just hire the experts to evaluate your buildings. Like I mentioned at the beginning, we were very, very successful at One Court Square, and then we rolled out the project throughout the rest of the portfolio. We're partnering with NYSERDA with the Onsite Energy Manager. So we hired Travis Smith as the Onsite Energy Manager, and we're going through full evaluations. I'm not understanding why more people aren't doing it. I guess that's maybe the point of this webinar, but it just doesn't make, why isn't everybody doing this is what I don't understand. Just at least to understand and do the evaluations and understand what NYSERDA has to offer, understand what Con Edison has to offer, and Accelerate and everybody else. And, if it makes sense, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, but why not at least do the study of it?
Great. Thanks, Travis. Anything else to add?
Yeah, I think it's important to note. Peter said he just says yes, right? I think we deal a lot in the institutional market, and a lot of owners want to tinker or do it themselves. There's a lot of power in just saying yes and letting the experts kind of run with the project. And you can see the success here. 6 months, we delivered a very substantial project. Sometimes the owners can really kind of slow the process down, really getting overly involved. So bring in the right consultants, bring in the right contractors, and let the job run. And now Peter's getting the savings. He got the rebate. Whereas if you delay the project, you're not getting this, you're leaving a lot of cash on the table.
Right. Okay. Thanks, Travis. Actually, maybe just one more quick one for you, Brian. You talked about the On-Site Energy Manager program, which was really interesting. Is that just for multifamily, commercial? What are the criteria for the building types on that?
Right. So right now it's just for commercial and industrial. It was previously open to multifamily, but that program closed. That aspect of the program closed last month. And it's a pretty simple application process. I'd welcome folks to join.
Okay, thanks. Okay, some of the audience questions here. Let's get to the first one. Some upgrades seem to be covered by more than one incentive. So how do I navigate which one I should approach first, or should I approach both? Who wants to take that? Okay, Robert?
Sorry, just a mutant. Yeah, so a lot. I think this happens a lot. Kind of like what path to take when you're actually starting a project and you're putting everything together. That's why we have such a large team to help you out. So if you're a little unsure, if you're going to do, if you're going to upgrade a chiller plant and you're not too sure if it's just going to be a traditional prescriptive incentive to replace the chiller, or it's going to be a custom incentive because you're going to put all more bells and whistles and so on and so forth, just reach out to commercial at coned.com or your business development manager, myself, and we'll try to put you in the right path, just to help you figure that out, because it does vary. There's no black and white, I think, answer for that.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I would add to that what we traditionally do is utilize the NYSERDA programs to kind of do project development. So leverage that FlexTech to develop the project, figure out what the right path is, figure out the economics, because you can't just walk in and say, "Hey, customer, I want you to spend $6 million." That's probably not going to work too well. So you want to set up, do an investigation, dot the I's, cross the T's on figuring out what the C&I looks like, and then phase 2 would be the C&I, the implementation. Once you've gotten the customer very comfortable with the expense and the savings and the rebate.
Okay. Next question here. What is boiler outside air reset control?
That was on my presentation, so I'll answer it. Yeah. Long story short, it's basically resetting your boiler temperature based on the outside air conditions, right? If you set up a boiler, and let's call it a hot water boiler, and it's supposed to operate hot water at 180 degrees, you don't want that to operate at 180 degrees all the time, right? It's going to operate 180 when it's 20 degrees outside, and maybe, I don't know, 170 when it's 60 degrees outside or whatnot. So it's just varying your boiler water temperature based on the outside air conditions.
Excellent. And I learned something new today too. Thank you.
Yeah.
Next question. Has there been any consideration to include master venting as a rebatable measure that Con Ed includes in its program?
So I guess it goes to me again. So from my understanding, I believe we are looking at it in the multifamily sector. I don't think that comes up that often on the commercial side, but if you do have a project that you think is going to lead to significant energy savings, just reach out to us and we'll look at it. So it's not a prescriptive measure yet, I can tell you that, and it's not a particular measure that we list. I know I haven't seen any that I can think of for commercial industrial, but I believe there are some that we've had some custom projects in the multifamily side. But just reach out to one of us, and like I said, anything you have to save energy, we'll kick the tires on.
Okay, next question. For the NWS program, are payments allocated based on modeled or metered demand reduction? What documentation is required for this incentive?
Goes to me again. So for NWS, it's based on obviously you have to show calculations of what the building is doing now and then what it's going to do. So I think the answer to your question is a little bit of both. So what is the current demand of the building? We're going to look at that and say, if it's, I don't know, 1,000 kilowatts a month, and then you're going to lower it to 800 kilowatts, So basically, you're going to use both. It's basically, the answer to that is both. But to get into exact specifics, if you have a question about a project, I'd like to refer you to the NWS team because they do have some strict requirements about how demand is actually being reduced going forward. So if you have any questions about that, again, reach out to us and we'll give you a better answer before you're ready to submit your project.
Okay, great. So I'm going to ask one last question, and then have each of you, I'll call on each of you to give an answer. So first of all, I want to really thank all of you for the great insights you've offered today. This is a question we get all the time at Urban Green about incentives, and so this has really shed a lot of light. What is the one thing you want people in our audience to do when they leave this program today? So Andrew, I'll start with you.
Thanks. I just want to echo that. Thanks for allowing New York City Accelerator to speak today, and this was a great opportunity to share what the program has to offer. One thing that people can do once they leave here today is to check us out. If you haven't heard about us, feel free to look into the website. Feel free to give me a call, shoot me an email. We have a lot of people on staff that would love to talk about any specific locations that you have in mind, or friends or customers that you have in mind, or whatever the case may be. We're open for any and all calls. We want to serve as a one-stop shop for people to just really engage in the discussion surrounding energy efficiency and the next steps moving forward. So that's it.
Thanks, Andrew. Brian, what's the one thing you want people to do?
Yeah, I don't know if it could be more original. I mean, I think I agree. Just checking out the put energy to work might be the best starting point. That is a link that was provided in the slides, and also I believe in the chat. It does consolidate all of our different programs into one, and you can see how they're structured. So it's a really good way to orient what programs might be right for you to assess where you are right now. So if you're at more of an incentive at implementation phase or O&M, looking at workforce training, all of those opportunities are available there. So, it may help, when you see something to really say, oh, this is what I was looking for, versus, hopefully you can go with a plan, but sort of seeing the suite of opportunities that might also help you to think about what you could take on in the future. Many times you don't think about workforce training until you sort of see what the opportunity is, and realize it could be a great fit for you, at least to start while you're thinking about greater improvements down the road. So feel free to check out Put Energy to Work at NYSERDA.
Great, good idea. Peter, what's the one thing you want the audience to do?
I think just think about what you heard today. Think about what the different speakers said, the different incentives that are out there, the different things you can do. And seriously, if there's building owners on this call, just seriously consider implementing, hiring people like Travis Smith and Carrier, and really evaluate your buildings and take advantage of the programs that are here to be offered, because that's how you affect change. That's number one. Number two, just have a happy holiday.
Thank you, Peter. Travis, how about you?
Give a loved one a hug, maybe, is one thing. I don't know. But focused here, I would say New York City is a very relationship-focused environment in the construction industry. I would say, like you get a second opinion from a doctor, get a second. If you're saying, hey, this project's X savings and X rebate, there might be different strategies that aren't being thought through. And once you grab that rebate, sometimes it's hard to go back and get additional because it wasn't thoroughly strategized. So I would say get a second opinion if you're going through an energy project, or a third opinion, and different ideas will be brought to the table. That would probably be my advice.
Thanks. Robert, last word. What do you want the audience to know or to do?
Yeah, just to follow up on what everyone else is saying. I mean, thanks everyone for attending today, but also really just if you have a project that you're thinking about doing, reach out to us, submit it. I mean, there's a lot of naysayers that say the process is really long. Look at the great project that Peter and Travis put together, how quickly they did that, and the amount of incentives they got. We have the budget for it. So if you have projects that look like it's going to save a lot of energy, then let us help you. Best way to do it. And also, happy holidays, of course.
Right. Thank you. I want to thank today's panel for the really informative discussion. Maybe we can bring the closing slides back up. Again, want to thank Con Ed for their sponsorship of this program and for their longstanding support to Urban Green over the years. It really means a lot to us. So thank you, Con Ed, for making today's program possible. Today's program is a great example of the work we do at Urban Green. We take on the biggest challenges with the biggest solutions to have the biggest impact. We do that by convening, by doing research, by doing advocacy, and by doing education. So if you're not a member of Urban Green, please be sure to check us out. Thanks for joining us today. Hope everybody has a safe and happy holiday if I don't see you at our upcoming Urban Green events, and we appreciate that you spent time with us today. Be well.